Hey everyone, welcome to the international version of Litvak Leadership Live. Yes, we have crossed the US border today into Canada, and we are talking with my new friend, Olusegun Eleboda. And Olush has written a book, The 7 Unstoppable Starting Powers, Powerful Strategies for Unparalleled Results in Your First Year as a New Manager. Olush coaches new managers, those that are switching roles, and entrepreneurs. So Olush, welcome to Litvak Leadership Live.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to jump into the conversation. But before we do, just a little housekeeping message for everyone. If you like these videos that I put out and these interviews, why don't you subscribe to Litvak Leadership on Facebook and on YouTube, and then click the bell to get notified when we go live every single day, and you'll know more about us. Okay, that's my commercial. I'm done with that. So, Olush, tell everyone, first of all, I know you're not Canadian. You moved to Canada, you said 4 years ago. What prompted the move to Canada?
Thank you. Good question. There are a couple of decisions that you take for basically family consideration. So I'm a proud father of 4 kids, and then my family had always, wished to move to this part of the world, and then when we sat down as a family to take that decision about 4 years ago, we thought, it was the right time to make that move. And then here we are today. So it was primarily driven for family consideration.
That's a great reason. If there is any kind of great reason, that is a fantastic one. So before we jump into talking about the book, tell me, how do you define leadership?
Good question, and that's a definition that I've had to ask myself over several years. If I could summarize what leadership is all about, what would be the right one sentence that would summarize it perfectly for me? And I found the answer, in one of the definitions of leadership by John C. Maxwell. And then he described leadership as influence.
Right.
And I think for me, looking at my experience, looking at the clients that I've coached, looking at the kind of results that I've seen leadership drive, and then looking at how leadership have failed, I think that would be the best definition of leadership for me. It's purely influence, influencing one man to support a cause or a mission or a vision that you cast. And it's as simple as it sounds and as complicated as it could be.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So when you say a missionary vision, what exactly is that?
So when you talk about vision from a leadership perspective, it essentially describes the ability of the leader to see far enough into the future and take a step backward to see decisions that could be taken today, implementation of strategies that could be done today, tomorrow, leading to the actualization of that future picture that he sees. And your ability to influence people around you, people who work with you, stakeholders, and all of the people that are essential and critical to the actualization of that vision, is basically what influence looks like. And that describes vision for me.
Your microphone turned off.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay. It's technology. It happens. So
yeah.
So in your book, you talk about the 12 powerful mental detox that you need for unstoppable leadership success. Can you give us some examples of some of the 12 mental detoxes?
Okay, so the first chapter of my book is titled The Unstoppable Mindset of a Visionary Leader. And I did mention very emphatically in the book that winning and failure, success and setbacks all begin in the mind of the leader. And you're going into leadership as a first-time manager, and how you fail or succeed in that role begins in the mind. So my attempt was to capture a couple of things, wisdom and insight, to help shift that mindset in the right way from the get-go at the start of your leadership career. And I'll give you an example of some of those mental detox, like the way I like to describe them. So I said that if building followership mindsets in the people you lead is more important to you than building a leadership mindset, then your growth can only be arithmetic in progression. Arithmetic is when you move from a 1 to a 2 to a 3. But when you switch that over and you begin to instill leadership mindset in the mind of those that are not currently occupying leadership positions under you,
right,
then you position your organization to move at a geometric progression. Geometric progression is when you move from a 2 to a 4 to 8 to 16 to 32 to 64, 128, and so on. Now, that's a total mind shift for an average leader out there, because not everyone sets out in leadership understanding that the people under you are co-creators with you, and they are not necessarily followers as we popularly would describe them. So I offered that as a mental detox to switch and begin to equip people with leadership capability, leadership mindset, right from their roles as individual contributors.
So for individuals to not look at the team they are leading as their followers, but
Correct.
look at them as leaders that they are developing quickly rather than slowly.
Absolutely. And that's one strategy that in my career I've seen deliver the most results. Because you can develop people to the point where taking initiative become an easy decision for them. You can develop people to begin to think the way you will think as a leader and not necessarily see themselves as dependent on you for direction as a leader. And that has been transformative in its delivery in terms of the result I've gotten from there. Another mental detox that I shared in the book is the vulnerability of a leader. And I said that if you're not prepared to be vulnerable as a leader, you might not be able to tap into the enormous potential that humans have to deliver, because you don't connect deeply with people on an emotional level when they don't see you as a leader that can be trusted, a leader who acknowledges that he's as human as everybody else on the team, and he makes mistake like everyone else make mistake. The danger of leadership is to assume that you always have the answer, and that you always need to be at the top. You always need to have all things together. Yeah. So you need to have all things together. No. And when I coach people going into leadership, I like to encourage them, be as human as anybody on your team. Be vulnerable, right? Open up your mistakes and be comfortable owning your own story. It's in being vulnerable that your team draws the strength and take the permission to be vulnerable also, and then they can share with you some of the deep connection that you need to understand how to coach them or how to lead them to greater heights.
So how do you balance the sharing of vulnerabilities while at the same time still being looked upon as confident and that you know what you are doing? Because there's a balance there, isn't there?
Absolutely. So when you start out in leadership, these are some of the ways we coach leaders, my leadership clients. When you start out in leadership, there's a principle introduced in my book. It's called gaining the first advantage. And basically what that tells you is there's a moment within the time that you're taking up leadership role, and a few months down the line, when you miss that moment, you don't regain it back. Now, that moment is what I like to call as opportunity to take the first advantage. Your first meeting with your team, your one-on-one, either in a one-on-one setting or you're meeting with them as a group, the first time you're meeting your line manager, the first time you're probably making a presentation to your team, your first email communication. Those are critical moments where you take advantage of the first advantage. Okay, the first advantage basically relies on the understanding that human beings tend to remember the first experiences later on in life more than at any other time, right? For example, if I ask you, Sean, do you remember your first job? Chances are that you would be able to recall that very easily. Do you remember your first love? Do you remember the first home that you own? Do you remember a few details about your first child? Those memories come to mind easily, right? More than you probably, if you have more than a child, more than you would recall on any other child. I have fond memories of the first time I had a boy, right? So it's the same principle with leadership. When the leader takes advantage of those first moments to set expectation, to set the record, and build momentum right from the first meeting. Down the line, when there are opportunities to be vulnerable, then it becomes easy because you've laid a solid foundation by taking advantage of the first advantage.
So in the book, you talk about creating a series of firsts for the competitive advantage. What exactly do you mean by a series of firsts?
Good. So when a leader takes up a leadership role, again, I touched on this earlier on. The first time that you're going to have a meeting with your team is an opportunity to establish some credibility, to show yourself as a people-centric leader. That's one series. That's one piece in the series of first. The first time that you're going to communicate by email to the team that you lead is an opportunity to echo the leadership style and the kind of expectation, the kind of culture that you want to promote within your team. The first time you're meeting your line manager is another piece in the series of first. So look at your first 30 days and be strategic about how you want to implement every meeting, every conversation, and the kind of goal that you want to pursue within the first 30 to 90 days. Those are series of firsts, and I found them extremely powerful because they anchor experiences that your team will continue to draw from to judge you and buy into your vision and set the team up for this mind frame around what is possible with this new leader. So those are some of the things I refer to as creating series of firsts. So
you talk about how you coach first-time leaders or someone switching roles or entrepreneurs. Can't these series of firsts still help individuals that are established in their roles? And if so, how?
Great question. So chances are that there are people who are not necessarily new leaders who are going to pick up this book, right? And one of the things we echo throughout the book is there are pivotal moments in your leadership career where those opportunities of a first time present themselves. The beginning of a new quarter, the beginning of a new year. Those are pivotal moments, right? Because we naturally, have this renewal mindset every time we're starting out a new year, right? And then if you're an organization that runs, quarterly calendar, when you're starting a new quarter, that's also another golden opportunity. So if you're already established, then look forward to new quarters, look forward to new years. Those are moments, that present themselves as golden moments to reset those expectations and those series of first again.
So, everyone's daily decisions is very, very important. I've read and heard many leaders say the decisions you make today are not affecting today. They are affecting 3 months from now, a year
Correct.
from now, 5 years from now. But people don't realize that. I've heard Jeff Bezos say he's not working on this quarter. He's working on the quarter that's 36 months from now by what he lays down today. Taking all that into account, I see in your book, you talk about daily decisions and that you have a surefire tool that will future-proof your decisions. Can you give us a little inkling about this surefire tool? I don't expect you to tell us exactly what it is, but tell us about it.
Absolutely. So what is the job of a leader, really? I think leadership is all about decision making. That's what we do on a daily basis. Take decision. And this is why, for me, leadership is one of the most exciting and one of the most dangerous adventures to embark on, because the decisions that you take could actually impact the future of the people that you lead. Now,
absolutely.
The surefire tool that I've seen helped a lot in my personal journey, and the leaders who have implemented, who have used this, is what I call time deconstruction. And it takes its root in the I'm sure you're familiar with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right, by Stephen R. Covey, and he talks about beginning with the end in mind. Time deconstruction is a call to every leader to view today's decision on around what it could be in 5-10 years time, right? And let the outcome in about 5-10 years, let the picture that would be painted with that decision you're taking today in about 5-10 years, let that be the guiding post for you. One of the exercises that we take clients through is to say, so let's assume that you have to take a decision on XYZ today. And let's say that decision has the potential to land you a jail term. If you think about that decision today and the thought around jail time is not enough to stop you, can you project 5 years forward and think about that same decision? You get a jail term, and then in 5 years, you have a business partnership, or you have a career that you want to pick, and they need to run a background check on you. Would you still take that decision if you know that the background check on you could potentially stop that business relationship or stop you from taking that career, right?
Oh, absolutely. I hear what you're saying.
Good. So if it is not enough, then maybe you need to project 10 years forward again and think about what it could potentially stop in 10 years. Maybe in 10 years, you already have a family you're raising, you have children, and then these children are going to live with a thought around or the consequences of their father's action 10 years ago. So the farther into the future you're able to deconstruct, the better the quality of daily decisions that you're taking. Simple addresses.
Got it. And in your book, you talk about the deconstruction of that and how people can do that.
Correct. Yeah. So it's all about sitting down and ask. And there are 3 golden questions that I like to ask when I'm time deconstructing. The first one is, does it serve God? The second one, does it serve humanity? The third one, does it serve a bigger me in the future? So if I think about what I want to be in the future, where I want to go in the next 10 years with my business or my career, does it serve me in 10 years? Will I be proud of this? So does it serve God? Does it serve humanity? And does it serve a bigger me? If the answer to those are not a resounding yes, then it's time to reconsider that decision.
That is a great list of questions. So it begs the question, what role do you see is one's faith or relationship with God in leadership?
Yeah, good question. And I think that's a very big topic there, right? And I think at some point it's difficult for you to separate your religious values from your approach to leadership. I'm a Christian. I have a strong Christian values, that I've been raised with, and it's influenced the way I approach leadership over the years, right? And it doesn't make me better than someone who practices a different religion, right? So
right.
I think it's important that you align values, based on your background, cultural background, religious biases, and whatever you believe in. It's important to align those values in the approach to leadership. And the question to answer for the leader as you align those values is, at the end of the day, there's a general rule around what serves humanity, what is good for the common man, right? What is good, regardless of your religious bias. And we must be able to come to terms with that and let that, reverberate through whatever values that will influence the decisions that we take. So to your question, I think religious beliefs have a strong impact in the leadership approach of anyone in leadership.
Absolutely. And do you see that as I mean, you must see it as a guiding principle as to what one is putting their efforts towards? Because your first question you say you should ask is, does this, meaning what you're putting your efforts to, serve God?
Right. Yeah. So if now I said, does it serve God? Because I believe in God, right? And then maybe for any other person, you have what you believe in. So the question to ask is, does it serve that higher power? But I guess at some point we need to come to a point where we all believe in the existence of a higher power. So if you believe in the existence of a higher power, in whatever name or whatever form that superpower or that higher power is represented for you, that question is to challenge you to take a second look and ask, does it serve that higher power? Does it serve the universe? And that's the question that I would like to answer before those decisions are taken.
So these three questions: does this serve God? Does this serve humanity? And does this serve the future to me? Is that specific to the goal an individual has set? Is it to their strategies? Is it to their tactics? Is it to all of it? What is it addressed to?
Where I have found that to be very relevant and useful is when a leader is faced with a tough decision.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are probably decisions that you can take just based on experience, based on the values of the organization, based on policies and procedures and all of that. But where you're confronted with a tough decision, I found this to be extremely helpful in deciding which approach do I take. For example, you are faced with a decision to fire an employee, that has violated some ethical conduct, right?
Okay.
And if that decision is tough to take, just based on the fact of that case, then at that point, maybe I want to call in these three questions, right? Do I want to be seen as a biased and a partial leader in the next 5 years? So that's what I mean. Does it serve me and a bigger me in the future? Do I want to present myself as a leader incapable of taking a decision on this? Or do I want to condone the malpractice or the indiscipline of this employee and then potentially, open up my organization, to the risk that this action might portend, So I ask those questions, and then again, if the answers are yes, if it serves me, then I take the decision. If it doesn't serve me, then I take a second look at that decision, and then I move forward from there.
All right. So will you tell us as a tease the #1 leadership investment that will change your life and career forever? Or do we have to get the book to find out the answer?
The #1 leadership investment that would change your life forever, Sean, is investment in yourself. It has the biggest return on investment, any kind of investment on the planet. And I see this with a lot of burden on my heart, how people go into leadership without understanding that you can't lead beyond your capacity to lead. You are the lead over your team, right? you can't produce what you don't have capacity to produce. So that puts an enormous responsibility on every leader to understand that when I put X into me, the outcome is an X plus 1. And when I put X plus 1, the outcome is an X plus 2. And when you move down the line, the X plus 1, X plus 2 becomes compounded over time. And that for me is the biggest investment. And I strongly, spoke about it in my book, recommending a couple of things that you can do as leaders to ensure that you're constantly investing in yourself, because that returns the biggest.
I once worked at an organization where the HR leader had this phrase that she would use, and we were talking about someone, and she's like, well, of course he's doing well. He has invested in himself. And she was looking at it as this gentleman was going on for his master's and planned to go on for his doctorate. I don't think, just my opinion, that going on for an advanced degree, whether it's a master's or a doctorate, is the right thing for everyone. I think there's lots of ways to invest in oneself, whether it be following the John Maxwell program, whether it's actually reading a nonfiction leadership or self-help book every single day and then reflecting on it and having actionable steps. What do you think are some of the ways that an individual can invest in themselves?
Absolutely. That's spot on, Sean. And I 100% agree with you. I don't want to go the route of the education sector, right? But I think the best investment you can make on yourself are not pursuing degrees and certificates. They are the investment that you've highlighted and listed, that a leader, takes personal responsibility to equip yourself with programs and courses, join some mastermind group, listen to podcasts, and all of those have more impact on a leader than a degree would probably deliver to you. So those are my recommendation as well. We have a program that we're currently developing, also targeted at new leaders. It's called the Unstoppable Leadership Accelerator. And I'm just so pumped for the kind of thing that we want to share in that program, because it begins with clarity extraction, for a new leader or for someone who is struggling with results. Understanding how to extract your purpose, your superpowers, and line them up with your leadership assignment. So from the get-go, you are thinking long-term. You are seeing how what you've done in the past has brought you to where you are today, and then you're able to uncover some of your potent talent and use it to your best advantage. So there is no confusion about what am I good at, and it makes delegation so easy down the line, because whatever you're not good at, then it's easy to enlist someone on your team who is good at those things. But many leaders go into those kind of programs. Those things are not taught in schools. You don't find them in schools. You don't find them in certificate from the university. So no. 100%, I totally agree with you. Those are the biggest needle movers for any leadership investment.
I was listening, I don't know to whom it was this morning on my morning walk, and they talked about education is important, but what the education, colleges, universities' job is to do. It is not to create creative thinkers, but it is to create individuals who will fit into the workforce. Agree, disagree?
100%, 100%. That is so true, and I believe it totally.
I was speaking with a young man the other day who is frustrated in his career thus far, and I said to him, I said, well, have you considered being an entrepreneur? You're smart, you're bright, you have opportunity, you have ideas. Maybe working for someone isn't for you. And I think some people are just frankly scared to make a leap to even start a side hustle or anything for self-improvement to create something else, because they've spent all this time getting their education, doing what society said is the right thing to do, and they're unhappy. What say you to that?
Absolutely. And I think this is a common problem for those that are stuck in 9 to 5. See, the shift from paid employment into entrepreneurship is one of the hardest shifts that I've ever seen.
Okay, wait. Say it again. The shift from what to what?
The shift from paid employment into entrepreneurship is one of the hardest shifts that I've ever seen. And the reason why many businesses fail, especially businesses started by people who were previously in 9 to 5, one of the reasons why they fail early is because not many people transition, not many people move from the mindset of a 9 to 5 of an employee into the mindset of an entrepreneur. And that's a whole topic that we can discuss on some other days, right? But I honestly think that our world need more entrepreneurs than people stuck in 9 to 5. I think we will create a better world when we have people creating and co-creating and innovating in our world than we have in organization. There are many potentials. There are many multi-billion businesses that are locked in people who move from paycheck to paycheck. And some of these organizations they work for has done a good job of caging those potentials. Some of these people are working under leaders who have capped their potentials. And it's only when you remove them from that environment and launch them out in the world that you begin to see explosion in human potential. You begin to see opportunities being created, job being created. So I think that that's the right way to go. And I will support, we have a couple of things that we're doing to support that transition. And I think that's something that would pay off and create a better world, for us to live in.
I mean, when you look at, just to name Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, entrepreneurs, modern day people, Elon Musk, say what you will about him. What he has created in battery technology is unbelievable.
It's unprecedented.
Amazon, Jeff Bezos, what he has done, not even with Amazon, where we all go to get books and stuff, but what about Amazon Business Services and the server farms and the back of business that so many people don't even realize he has created and made it happen? Entrepreneurs. And were they bright? Well, Henry Ford, if I remember correctly, didn't go beyond 6th grade, or was it high school, something like that. And Jeff Bezos, he had a great career, but he had to go literally have meetings with 60 people to get 20 investors. And everyone began with the same question: what is the internet? So I think there's huge opportunities, and to have people out there like you working with starting out entrepreneurs, I think will make a big difference in their lives.
I totally, Sean. And then, sometimes when we mention those big names, to some people, they look very far away, right? Jeff Bezos is a multi-billionaire, the richest man on earth. And all of those big names, those names sound very far away. But guess what? I've been privileged to be part of a couple of masterminds where we have people, young entrepreneurs, making a difference in the world, creating a better life for people, creating a better world for us to live in. These people are making 7-6 figures in their businesses. There are tons of them around. And they were people who had to confront and take that hard decision to say, screw 9 to 5. It's time to launch into entrepreneurship. So this is why I think we need to find ways to continue to encourage people, to step out and take on this entrepreneurship challenge and then just create a better world, like I said before.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. So we've gone almost 35 minutes in our 30-minute show. It's been a great time. So I'm going to turn it over to you for the next 2 minutes. I want you to speak directly to the audience now, and the audience that'll be watching on replay. and I want you to talk to them about themselves.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Folks, the subject of leadership is such a critical and all-time important subject. And I love what you're doing, Sean. I have listened to a couple of the episodes that you've done in the past. I've seen incredible people that you've brought on this show. I think this is an amazing initiative. Our world needs more leaders. We're at a time in our history where the demand and the need for great leadership can be more than we've had in the past. Statistics says that an average new manager has a 40% odds of success in his first 2 years. That's a stat by Corporate Executive Board. Another one from Harvard Business Review says 58% of the people researched said that they would trust strangers more than their own bosses. Now, for me, that tells me the leadership gap is widening on a daily basis. And we're at a time where we need to begin to join hands to bridge that gap and close that gap. And I want to say to everyone out there who is occupying one leadership role or the other, the lives of people depend on you. And the way that you can create a better world is to equip yourself with capability to be able to handle the lives of people who have been saddled upon your shoulders. And as a closing and parting word, I will leave with three things. I'll leave you with three things, and which is, number one, to build the capacity to deliver leadership results. Number two is to seriously deliver results. And number three is to just deliver results. Everything else is entangled within these three statements that I've just made. Thank you very much, Sean. It's been a huge pleasure to be your guest on this program. I appreciate you very deeply. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alush. I am overwhelmed with the praise and the positive feedback you have given me, because you are so on top of things. You are, we really hadn't spoken until today, but frankly, the items that we discussed, you really have a handle on this. You have your finger on the pulse, and I just want to encourage everyone that to go on to Amazon, and you can either get the book as a Kindle download, or you had said, Alush, that in a week it's going to be available in hardback also?
Correct. In about 2 weeks, the print version will be ready.
Okay, so I think that just from the conversation we have had today, I know this is a book I'm going to be interested in reading, and I think you all should too. So everyone, that's Litvak Leadership Live for today. Join us tomorrow as we interview another leader from another field, but it'll definitely be about leadership. Have a blessed day.